Hi, and welcome to Newsmakers TV, Santa Barbara's most popular and provocative local news program on the air since 2014. And Viva la Fiesta! It is Friday, August 4th, 2023. I'm Jerry Roberts, and I'm very pleased to welcome back members of our all-star panel of top local journalists: Lily Dallow, Digital Content Director at KEYT; Callie Fausey, staff writer for the Santa Barbara Independent; and Josh Molina, Santa Barbara's answer to Joe Rogan and political reporter for Newshawk. Lily, we're just moments away from El Desfile Histórico, which means I can take off this stupid hat. And you're going to be doing the live stream of the parade, which I think, what, starts at noon or 11?
It
Anyway,
starts at noon.
so do you actually have to, this is the question for old people who don't understand technology. Do you have to actually be at the parade to do your live stream, or how is that going to work?
So I don't have to physically be there, but I do choose to be. I kind of have a mobile office. So as long as I have my work laptop and my work phone, I can pretty much live stream it from anywhere. I tap into the cameras that they use for the broadcast, and I live stream that onto the website. But in between, during breaks and whatnot, I can take my own phone, and there's an app where I can turn my phone into a live camera, and I can follow around John Palmentary and have him do a live stand up, and I can switch that on my computer. So it's kind of like my own little show on the web. Yeah.
Oh, that's very cool. And you're doing social media as well.
Right. So, yeah. So I'm choosing to be there today for multiple reasons. One, because it's fun. Two, so that I can, once I start the live stream, I don't necessarily have to be there to watch it the whole time, but I have it on me, and then I can go around and film for social media. And then the third reason is because Ernestine Ygnacio-De Soto is going to be the Grand Marshal. So
yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk about Ernestine, because you had quite astonishing multimedia presentation, which I at least yeah, appeared on Newshawk this week. You had the written story, you had multiple videos that were embedded into it, you had old pictures, you had interview with Ernestine. Talk about how you put that all together, and tell us a little bit about Ernestine.
yeah, it was probably my favorite project I've worked on so far in my career. It took a couple months, mostly because it's I have my full-time job at KEYT, and this is a freelance position I have with Newshawk. So I believe it was in May when Josh helped me go to interview Ernestine at the mission where you are right now, Jerry. And we sat in the Rose Gardens, and she spoke with us for about an hour and a half, and she's just full of stories, and all of them are incredible. And as she was talking, and as I did my background research, I found the other people I wanted to interview, which at the top of the list was John Johnson. He's the curator of anthropology for the Museum of Natural History here, and they have, so in addition to all of her stories, her life stories, their story of how they met and their friendship was really moving as well. So Ernestine, long story short, she had a pretty rough upbringing. She was raised
She was
by her
born in a
mother.
restroom, for starters, right?
Yeah, yeah. She told us that she was born in the toilet on her head, and her mother was only aware of her pregnancy a couple months prior, and that's how she started out her life. And she said that she was also born with a hole in her heart, which was, not everybody's born with a hole in their heart. And she had a lot of medical issues growing up. And then on top of that, she faced some issues with her multicultural upbringing. She said that she was ashamed of her race. Her mother was Chumash, her father was Mexican, and she was raised by her stepfather, who was Asian. So she said that it was, tough growing up. Like, she didn't really feel like she could fit in. But then she kind of went to the other side of it. She's like, I kind of got the best of both worlds, or all three worlds in a way. And it wasn't until her early 30s that she decided to kind of turn around her life, because when she was in her teens, she became pregnant and she left home to live with the father of her children, and got married, and that turned into an abusive marriage. And then her early 30s, she went back and she wanted to be a nurse, so she went back to school. And right before she graduated, she had to take an elective. And when she was talking about that, she's like, I didn't even know what an elective was. She's like, I'm supposed to graduate. And so she saw the class Native American Studies, so she decided to take that. She's like, I grew up with that. That should be easy. And for her final project, she wrote about her mother, who was the last native speaker of Barbareño-Chumash, which is one of the original languages here. And her professor was moved so much that she took her to the Mission Archive Library. And when they walked in, John Johnson was there working on his doctoral dissertation, and he was studying Ernestine's family, because Ernestine's family worked with the late anthropologist John Harrington. And they walked in and they went to go look for more of Ernestine's ancestry. And they asked him, and he's literally studying her family. And he's like, yeah, I think I can help you with that. And so the two of them have worked together and been friends for 40 years. And yeah, it was really, it was such a great project. And on top of writing, which is my favorite thing to do, I got to incorporate, the multimedia set, like you said. And I thought that really brought out just how special the story was, like putting John and Ernestine side by side. Like when John took me through the Chumash exhibit of the museum, and he pressed play of Ernestine's mother speaking in Barbareño Chumash, like having that in the story as well just really brought a different light to it. And I loved the juxtaposition of their interviews, their separate interviews, where it was almost as if they were in the same room. Like my favorite part was when John was talking about when Ernestine first walked in. He's like, she looked like a hippie. She had these overalls on. And then in a separate interview with Ernestine, she literally said, and he'll call me the hippie, but he was the hippie. He was the one with the beard down to here, and he was the yogi or whatever you call it. And it was just, yeah, it was amazing.
All right, let's take it easy on old people who wore bib overalls. Here, I name their names. Okay. But and then today, Ernestine has this position of great honor,
Right.
Grand Marshal of the parade. So
Yeah,
it's a
she said that
remarkable story.
yeah. She said when she got the call, she didn't even know what a Grand Marshal was. But she was really excited. And yeah, it was, the big angle of the story going into it was that she would be representing, indigenous culture at the celebration of the Spanish colonial period. And when we asked her that question, she said, I'm not going symbolic. She said, I'm going Ignacio. She's going for her family. And she also said that she's flooding the parade with Ignacios. There's other floats with her family on there. So it's special.
Yeah. All right. So one of the things we try to do on the show is give you some behind the scenes look at how stories are put together. So Lily, thank you so much for that. And the other thing I want to say about Callie, Josh, as you know, reporters like ball players get on hot streaks and just seem to get one story after the other. And Callie has been on one of those lately with just really a great a series of things. And if you doubt it, go Google her name on the independent website, or go search her name on the independent website. But Callie, I want to talk first about the abrupt resignation of the principal of Santa Barbara High, Elise Simmons. We talked a little bit about it last week, but what's going on there? I mean, it's sort of late in the summer to have a principal resign and then to have to go do a search for it.
Yeah, it is interesting. It's only, a few weeks out until school starts. And she resigned to take a new job at the Santa Barbara County Education Office, but I think there have been more than 30 administrators now who have left the district, and she did so take this job at the county education office, but in doing so, she was also taking a pay cut. So you couldn't say that she was leaving for more money, which is interesting, I think.
Yeah. And I guess, there's two interesting angles there. The sort of exodus, as you say, of administrators from the district since Hilda Maldonado arrived a few years ago as superintendent, as well as County Superintendent Susan Salcido continuing to poach people from the Unified School District. Well, do you have any sense, was there bad feelings between Elise and Hilda, or was there some other issue that we don't know about?
I got no sense of bad feelings, but I think that even if there were bad feelings, I would never have seen that side of it, at least on the record. And I just, Elise's response was handcrafted for press. So even if there was bad blood, Josh and I would have never heard it.
Yeah. Josh, the last time we had a principal sort of abruptly released was at San Marcos High. And of course, that story went on for about 2 or 3 years. What's your take on this sudden departure?
Well, Jerry, first I'm going to do what I sometimes do in my stories, which is have an abrupt transition. I want to go back to Lily's story since you didn't ask about it. Real briefly, she said it perfectly. I don't need to come in and try to say anything more than she did. But yes.
Oh no, Josh is.
I did want to offer a little bit of window. You and I often are skeptical, Jerry, about journalism, about the next generation of journalists, about the future of journalism, and I just want to say that watching. Oh, you're not skeptical, okay? Watching Lily, and she did 100% of the work on this, but watching her do this story was incredibly inspiring. She's like Patrick Mahomes with 2 minutes left, trying to score a touchdown. Watching her be able to pivot, adjust, get multimedia, video, audio, stories, edit, and do it all and put it together. Newshawk has never had anything like this, as far as I know, on its website. Multimedia and in-depth presentation. And that's really not something anyone can teach. That's just her, that she just wanted to put in hours and hours and hours into this story. And it's very impressive. So anyone who doesn't read Newshawk or got lost in all of the Fiesta coverage this week, if there's one thing you're going to read, you should really read that story, because not only is it really great storytelling, but it's also this, Ernestine Ygnacio-De Soto, her life is a movie. It's a documentary. It's a book. And to watch Lily care enough to put in weeks, hours of time to help tell that story, I think the future of journalism is super bright. And so I just wanted to say that, because it is a something special kind of story that everyone should check out.
All right. Well,
now,
thanks for adding that.
So don't be so skeptical on the next generation, Jerry. Just can't.
I'm not skeptical. Hey, who is it? Who is it that's paying these young journalists these high salaries to come on the show? Come on.
Just kidding. Okay. So there is bad feelings. There is bad blood with many people at the district and Hilda Maldonado. The challenge, and Callie knows this, and I know this, is getting people to go on the record to tell us why. They will talk off the record, but it's one of those things, like if I were to repeat on the record and just sort of attribute it, like it would get back to those people. So we're very careful about what we say, but there is bad feelings. You don't have that many people leave the district just because there's a personality difference. These people make a lot of money with great benefits. And when they go somewhere else, it's because they're willing to give that up for their own personal quality of life. That being said, I will say to all of them, and maybe Kelly could back me up, if you want us to write the definitive story about what's happening at Santa Barbara Unified, you need to go on the record and talk to us. Because what happens is Callie will put herself out there, I'll put myself out there, and then people get mad at us. Oh, you just don't like the district. You don't like Hilda. You're just stirring it up. You just like sensational stories. Believe me, there's enough stories for us to do than to try to worry about that. So we're not going to put ourselves on the line if they're not willing to come forward, at least some of them. So that's the challenge. But Elise Simmons leaving Santa Barbara High to go work for a job for less money is shocking. It's stunning, right? It's not supposed to happen if everything was set out the way that people had envisioned for her and her future career.
Yeah. Well, speaking of talking off the record, I mean, the other thing, Callie, I've just heard buzz. I mean, maybe this isn't all on Hilda either. I mean, that's the narrative that, of course, Josh loves to push, except when those weeks when Hilda's being nice to him by taking pictures of his son at graduation. Not to bring that up again, but I mean, I've heard that there were also some other issues, maybe the other way going around. But anyway, what is the district doing to replace her on such a short-term basis?
So right now they have a interim principal, which I had to ask, is an interim principal even a thing? But yeah, they have an interim principal right now, and it's a longtime district employee, Fred Rizzo, right now. And they have some job openings listed online. They're going through a lot of different outlets to advertise his job and get applicants. So we'll see how quickly.
So is he in for the whole year or just first semester, or what? Do we know how that's going to go?
We don't know how that's going to go. I think it's going to be, he's just going to be there until they secure an applicant to take his place. We don't know how long that will take.
All right. Okay.
Jerry, I know Hilda is one of your most loyal viewers. So I want to say, I'm not putting the blame on Hilda. You asked me if there's bad feelings. And yes, you could
Hilda,
take the point.
Call us. The lines are open now. Tell us what's going on.
It's a shared responsibility. Everybody needs to do what they can to repair whatever relationship that is. Obviously, it's not all one person's fault, but does a problem exist? Yes.
Well, I want to know what the Susan Salcido poaching issue is here too. Because this is what, 7 people she's taken from the district, something like that. So yeah, there's something there too. Hey, Lily, you were talking before the show about how you got something like 200,000 views on your Instagram feed about this UFO story. And Callie, you wrote about that. I shouldn't say a UFO. I should say UAP, unidentified anomalous phenomenon, and say that 3 times fast. So, Callie, I mean, this is like a real thing, though. I mean, Congress is investigating, or at least trying to get information out. And there was a giant square or football-sized red light or something at Vandenberg. What's this all about?
Yeah, it was. It was 100-yard sided square, apparently, hovering over the ocean, coming towards Vandenberg, and then it stayed there for a few seconds, staring right at a group of employees, and then darted off over the mountains after 45 seconds. At least that's what the congressional witness testified. The former naval pilot. Yes, exactly.
He's a former pilot up there, right?
Yes, and he started the Americans for Safe Aerospace. So they take UAP reports from other military members, and there's been actually an increase in the number of military members reporting UAP sightings, and government officials have said, only a small number of these reports are anomalous, and a lot of the reason that these reports are increasing, they think, is because the stigma for saying, oh, I saw a UFO has also decreased. So it's very interesting, and I don't really know what to think about it personally.
Did you get a lot of feedback on that story? Did you hear from people calling in with their own reports of UAPs?
No, Jerry, I wish. That would be
How about you,
the
Lily?
peak of my
200,000.
job.
What did you actually post, Lily? And what did the reaction look like?
I posted just a video from the hearing of Mrs. Luna talking or asking Mr. Graves the question about the Vandenberg sighting, and it's pretty much just that clip from the hearing. And out of the 279 comments, most of them were from people talking about their own sightings, and I've received plenty of DMs and some calls from people, and there were some videos, but it kind of looked like satellite. It was hard to tell if it was a satellite or something else, but there's a lot of people out there with some stories that they
I don't want to add to the skepticism about that. You ought to do a multimedia story about that. It's kind of interesting. I mean, it's really, I don't know. Josh, speaking of UFOs, you've been over at City Hall all week. You see how I did that? First of all, just to digress a moment, Josh, I really think you need to do a piece on the costumes that our city council members wear. How many are colonialists and how many are the colonized? And I think Megan Harmon is going to be caught right in the middle on that one, trying to have it both ways. Anyway, they voted this week on finally on the $11 million to redesign the underpass on State Street. What's that all about?
So the State Street undercrossing. So this is the road that extended Highway 101 through Santa Barbara. There was no stoplight. So a long time ago, underneath in 1991, there's a bridge. That's a little tunnel, I should say, an undercrossing. So they're going to spend $11 million to narrow the street, one lane in each direction, widen the sidewalks, make it more bike friendly, pedestrian friendly. And then they hired Jeff and David Shelton, brothers, to redesign the area with art and new lighting and new non-structural poles there to make it more of a inviting area for people, for tourists, for locals, pedestrians.
So are you supposed to hang out there or just walk through it still?
It's supposed to be a pleasant experience, but you could technically stand and talk because these sidewalks are wider. It's not, I don't think, supposed to be a gathering place for events. But if they were to close it for an event, maybe they could do something like that. This is $11 million, and Jessica Grant, who works for the city, called it an extension to the gateway. So from Cabrillo to State Street, this will allow people to feel as though this is some pleasant, entertaining experience for lots of people. Because right now it's like just walls, right? It's
Very
just kind of dark.
Yeah.
And some of the areas kind of have a certain odor to them, and they're trying to liven this space up. It isn't really that controversial, one, because this is a city staff driven project.
No consultants?
It's a public works project. Well, they did use consultants, but the money is from a active transportation program grant. And so it isn't as though it's general fund money. These planners work really hard to apply for grants, for state money, to fund projects that increase mobility. And so that's what is happening there. This has nothing to do with the State Street thing, which is still tied up with everybody.
No, except it's going to be, we're going to have this $11 million terrific entryway into the rest of State Street, the living hell that is known as State Street, and the 9 blocks that are closed. But go on. So who is Jeff Shelton?
So Jeff Shelton is an architect. He has a world-renowned reputation for his whimsical Dr. Seuss-like designs. He famously designed the Tablet House, which is a small but tall 4-story building on just off State Street. I think it's kind of off the 400 block. It's now a vacation rental, but it's the circular stairs. And then he's designed homes around town and various projects. Augie's, the tequila bar on the corner of De La Guerra, I guess it is, or Ortega, right near downtown. They, that has this whimsical sort of design as well. So he's an eccentric individual, and that's, something cool. They're going to start in the fall. It'll take 18 months, and maybe Jerry, you and I can do a live stream show there from their wide sidewalks.
Yeah, I gotta say, I'm having a hard time being grumpy about this one. I don't know. I tried my best, but it's hard. Hey, Callie, I mentioned the series of stories you've been doing. The other thing that really caught my attention was there's an effort afoot to legalize psychedelics in Santa Barbara. Who's behind that?
So yes, psychedelics as in natural entheogenic plants. So that means, psilocybin mushrooms, peyote, ayahuasca, all of your favorite things back in the day, Jerry.
Back in the day?
But yeah, so this effort is being led by a psychedelic social club in the city, and they're basically right now in the process of gaining petition signatures and basically lobbying local city council members to push for that decriminalization. So it would be the removal of criminal penalties for possession and use of those.
Can they do that? I mean, aren't they banned by the federal government?
They are banned by the federal government, but as we've seen in cities like Oakland and I think it was Oakland and Santa Cruz, and recently I think San Francisco, the city council members can vote to decriminalize it in their jurisdiction. So
yeah, I mean, I'm being flip about it, but I mean, there really is a growing body of evidence that these kinds of substances can be used in as treatments, both I think in terms of mental health and also in some cases physical problems, not least treatment-resistant depression. Correct?
Right, and recently ketamine was legalized for therapeutic medical uses, and it's already shown to help a lot of people. So I think that if this can help people, it should be able to.
And what kind of response have they gotten from the council?
So when I spoke to them, however many weeks ago, was they had 2 city council members who had positive reactions, and I'll clue you in. Oscar Gutierrez is actually the one who pitched this story to me at the CEC's opening. And yeah, because they had just approached him about it, and he saw I have a mushroom tattoo, and he said, "Oh, that's ironic. I was just visiting with these people who want to decriminalize hallucinogens in the city." So
once again, misusing the word ironic, he meant coincidental.
Yes.
Yes.
I know.
Jerry, I think we can all agree, as long as the county does not write the ordinance to legalize psychedelics, it should be a good thing.
What's the vote going to be on this one, Josh? How are there 4 votes for this?
No, this is not going to happen. I know Jacob Tell, who I think, did you talk to him, Kelly? Is he behind this? He has that psychedelics club, and
16.
Yeah, so I think he's a really cool guy. He's really interesting, free spirit. He's got a really cool backstory. So he's very likable, and the topic is worth discussion and consideration. But I just don't see that with the current backlash against cannabis, and I know it's separate entities. There's just politically, there's a little yuckiness around anyone associated with the legalization, or with an ordinance that legalizes cannabis cultivation, and to go down that route with something else at this point in time, I don't know. I don't think there's enough votes for that. Maybe
Interesting. I
Kelly
hadn't
will
thought
know
of-
better
I
than I
hadn't-
do. But
Yeah, I hadn't thought about the connection because these substances actually don't have a terrible smell to them, I don't think. All right, Lily, you got to put this on your Instagram feed because I'm gonna take a wild guess that there's an overlap between your 200,000 UFO fans and some people on this. No, seriously, it's a good story. It is, and I hadn't realized that other cities had legalized or passed ordinances in an attempt to legalize. And then, of course, the great Senator Scott Wiener, who I'm always praising to the skies about his housing policies, actually has a measure in Sacramento, and I think it's advancing this year to decriminalize it throughout the state. So certainly something to.
are you saying something good about Scott Wiener?
No, I'm saying something good about the psychedelic substances in the treatment of mental health and other issues. All right, we gotta get out of here. Josh, you had who'd you have on the podcast this week?
I had the LA Times reporter, Jim Rainey, who was in town for a week and interviewed people about the demise of the Santa Barbara News Press. It's always awesome to talk to journalists, and this guy had great stories about his reporting over the years, his views, thoughts on the saga, and how even though it was clear the news press was not offering much journalistically at the end, it's still sad that an agency, an organization that had the potential to do good is no longer around. So yeah, really good guy, really interesting. All his journalism stories was pretty fascinating to listen to.
Yeah, and also Washington Post has a story out this week about it as well, if people want to check that out. Callie, real quick, what's been the pushback on the Veronica getting censored, I guess, by her colleagues on at City College? I've gotten reaction from some people who think that her free speech was being impinged.
Yeah, that was the main argument, was that this censure was going to silence her. It was an attempt to, just quiet her. It was a threat against her free speech. And I think that it kind of got a little bit maybe lost in translation along the way there, because censure sounds like censor. And so I think a lot of people, who a majority of which weren't her constituents, were very upset to hear that they were thinking of censoring the only conservative voice on the Board of Trustees.
Yeah, and you got to feel like there was some politics behind there with our good friend Jonathan Abood. Jonathan, another great loyal viewer of the show. But anyway, Lily, congratulations on your piece, and I know you got to run to go do the horse parade. I just want you to know, a lot of spirited conversation around here at Newsmakers headquarters this morning about the treatment of the horses and what happens to them during the parade. So if you see anything like that, I'm telling you, there's a big audience out there. If you see any poor horses that are dried out or not being treated properly, what are you going to be working on after Fiesta?
I haven't got that far.
You've been doing a lot of work because you had a live stream Fiesta Pequeña the other night.
Yeah,
it must have been kind of cool, actually, with the first male spirit. And I mean, there's a lot of interesting things that have happened this year that have made it, I think, different than in previous years, and kind of bringing it into the 21st century a little bit more. Yeah. Are you going to be interviewing El Presidente along the way, or what?
You know, I'll have to wait to hear back.
You reached out to him, right? And
Did.
that's
did.
weird that he didn't get back to you. All right, Lily Dallow, Josh Molina, and Callie Fausey, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. Thank you all for watching Viva la Fiesta, and we will see you next time on Newsmakers.